All right, I'm going to call the public safety meeting on Tuesday, March 18th, 2025 to order. Roll call, please.
Kevin,
Here.
Randy,
Here.
Cameron.
Here.
We have two absent. Tammy and Candace both said they could not attend, so they're excused.
Perfect. Moving on to pledge of allegiance. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Since things first, we have a motion for an answering, so let Chief Tony take that away.
Okay. No, we'll have him sworn in and then I'll talk. So Zach, if you would stand up, raise your right hand.
Yes, sir. Have been appointed as a police officer
I've been appointed as a police officer
of the Cross Plains Police Department.
of the Cross Plains Police Department.
I swear that I will support the constitutions
I will swear that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America and the state of Wisconsin,
of the United States of America and the state of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially
and will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of my office
discharge the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I, Zachary Esser,
I, Zachary Esser,
swear that I will abide by the code of ethics
swear that I will abide by the codes
adopted by the Cross Plains Police Department.
adopted by the Cross Plains Police Department.
On my honor,
In my honor,
I will never betray my badge,
I will never betray my life,
my integrity,
my care,
or the public trust.
or the honor.
I will always have the courage
I will always have the courage
to hold myself and others
to hold myself and others
accountable for our actions.
accountable for our actions.
I will always uphold the Constitution,
I will always uphold the Constitution,
my community,
my community,
and the agency that I serve.
and the agencies
So help me God.
You would just have him sign. $18. Thank you. Thanks for your help. Nope, not official yet. So before I hand him his badge, I just have a little statement to make. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending the swearing-in ceremony for Officer Zach Esser. Being the spouse, children, family, and friends of a police officer is a very difficult job. We truly could not be successful if not for your support. Officer Esser, you are now part of a new family, and we embrace you as one of our own. Welcome to the Cross Plains Police Department family. Officer Esser, you just recited the law enforcement oath of office, and that bears great responsibility. I now request you come forward and receive your badge. So if you just stand there. A badge symbolizes the oath you have taken, the duty you uphold, and the people you serve. A badge is the most recognizable part of a police uniform, and it symbolizes trustworthiness, safety, and protection to the people of your community. In daily interactions with your community, the badge catches the attention of people you interact with throughout the day and signals accountability for your duty to protect and serve. A person in need or danger searches for a recognizable symbol indicating someone is there to help. If they spot you wearing a badge, the symbolism of the badge crystallizes in a few seconds. Your badge does this heavy lift of placement or recall almost instantaneously. A badge symbolizes a person of authority who has pledged to serve and protect the community. We are conditioned to recognize a badge as a representation of a person who will help and defend someone in need. Officer Esser, you are now badge number 5236. Do good work, come back in one piece, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Now it's official. All right, you guys are welcome to stay, and We're going to continue on with the meeting and you're welcome to do whatever you'd like. Okay. All right. All right. Do you mind if we take a pause and just take some pictures? All right. I'm gonna keep the recording going. Okay.
Yeah, so take out the. There we go, look at that. Wait, never sharing your contact, no, hardly. Let's see.
Too late for now.
Is he a veteran from out here?
That's what I'm assuming so.
Well, that's what
You're supposed to say.
I mean, I know they have to happen at like a public meeting because you have to notice and all the stuff, but and then it's like, but then it doesn't leave time for, them to celebrate them, the moment, which they should also get. So.
When I started that, but I think that's the fourth officer I got around. That's cool. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they usually at the board meetings for some reason. And I think
They just pick whatever public meeting is close.
Thank you for that intermission.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's good. Good. Congratulations to Mr. Russell. Okay. Now on to the board and meeting stuff. Public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the committee on
Any issue, please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the committee encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Does anyone have public comment?
So I didn't receive any public comment and there's nobody online, so.
Okay, and then here's the topic number one. Alright, no public comment, so moving on. Approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was October 15th, 2024. I'll move to approve. Alright, I have a motion and a second. Move to the second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye, you say that. All those in favor?
So moved. All right, reports from PSC folks. I don't have anything new for this group since we've met last time. Any member reports?
Well, I was
I'm gonna say trout days. I was waiting.
Yeah. I'll try the right time. So again, Trump Day is May 3rd is the big day, first, second, some academics, around the grammar skills, of course. But just as a reminder, it's now May 3rd, that Saturday, the first Saturday in May. Very similar last year, application went in for the event, last week. I think you received that and all the chiefs of, public safety received that. So, looking for the village, of course, to support in any way they can. I will add some areas for, need again. Not looking from a public safety perspective, not looking at any, dedicated staff, but, anyone that's available and make presence, always welcome, between, EMS, as well as, PD. So, no Creek Parkway will again be shut down if approved. But we are seeking that as well and expecting even more people this year based on further promotion and some demands that we picked up that were pretty good. All side power one. So expect some new faces in town, which is what we want and need for good events like this. So I look forward to it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to send them my way.
Great. We will have extra staff on for that day, and we are going to be sponsoring the buddy rides.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks for catching that. So thank you for doing that. And we'll further promote that as well as part of the line walk and other.
Any other reports? Who's our special guest?
We don't. I just leave. Bob's there. Yeah.
All right, and then reports from first responders.
Fire and EMS, no reports, either one. They both had something going on, so they couldn't. I will save my report for the annual report, so I have nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. We'll move on to our discussion topics. First one, a discussion and possible action regarding cross-plugins ATV UTV ordinance, specifically the hours of operation. I guess you want to take it if you want me to take it.
Yeah, I mean, I can add to it. This was sent to me via email. You can see the names there that requested this. From the standpoint of the police department, I don't see an issue with extending that. Since the start of the program, we've only issued one citation, and it was early on, like within the first couple months. So we're not seeing any problems. We haven't received many complaints even. I can't even think if we even received a single complaint in 2024. So
How
So-
many years is this?
it's been what about 3 years? 3, yeah. Because it was something that when I took over in 2020, it was being discussed already. So it's probably been leaving longer than 3 years.
I think
So, and I've been here I'm on my 6th year, so.
so that's 1% of our revenue points. We also slightly adjusted the plan recently.
I think the request is just to match other municipalities.
Absolutely.
So I guess for clarity, this is,
It's to different than we get to. So, for discussion's sake, we didn't have any concerns really the 6 to 8 months ago. So, there hasn't been any changes.
So it's moving it to 5 AM to 10 PM, is that?
Doug kind of asked us, we got that. That seems reasonable to me.
It matches the other communities, so we'd be moving it to 5 AM to 10 PM. Bob? Right.
Those people up there are realizing their vehicles are cool. There is no ferry, they're legal, because there is no time for the ferry. It's not about that.
Thoughts?
Are we voting for a motion for this?
I would need a motion, but. Yeah, that's kind of whatever you guys are thinking for. Do we want to do 5 AM to 10 PM to align with this? Instead of county, right? That's the
County line.
Or town of Barry has no time limit, so we could put that recommendation to the board.
I guess with the lack of any kind of problems or reports or issues, and I remember this discussion.
Mhm.
This committee don't have to, I really have no problem with aligning on these things. I'll make a motion that we amend this. Yes. I think I'm agree. From 10 p.m. It's prohibited from 10 p.m.
As far as discussion goes,
With you a second,
oh.
if you don't support it, then. But we can discuss it, but, you know, but being a motion to discuss things, yeah, you can discuss it.
Yeah, there is.
You know when that's gonna be, when they come, it's gonna be. Oh, that's sorry, I missed that. Okay, I just see it, so it's very soon. The ordinance will be live. Okay. Gotcha. That's a little confused. I don't have anything else. I've never heard of anything, that will support it. You know, with the original restrictions that we had in place to, trial it. It looked like it was, 2019, we did a lot of research on it. This group did, 2020, I think early 2020, I think we voted on it.
It was very cool.
Yeah. Right, yeah, so, no, I will second, that motion.
So I have a motion to recommend prohibiting ATVs and crosswalks from 10 PM to 5 AM. Second. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. So we will.
That'll go to the board. Yeah, that'll be a recommendation to the board. There will be issues there. Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Bob.
All right.
All right. The annual report. So I've given you copies so you can take those with you. I'm just gonna page through it and give you the highlights. Same kind of overall message. Chief message is a little different because we worked on different things, but It's kind of the same, it follows the same process. We haven't changed our mission statement or our oath. None of that has changed, obviously the code of ethics. Then you get into the village officials. None have changed this time around. Since last year, it stayed the same. Obviously, next year we'll probably see some change, especially village board. Topics. The organization chart, this is the one that's intact for 24, but we did see some changes. We lost administrative assistant Marge McGraw and Officer Hannah Masters. Officer Zach Esser replaces Hannah Masters. So in 2000, and so next year, I didn't include him in this report because I wasn't sure, if he'd be hired yet, and so that kind of thing. So we did replace Marge McGraw with Erin Lambert. She was here today. And so next year we'll have an updated organizational chart. No, doing the oath, that's Bobby. She's the finance director, and she serves as clerk. So the people that can do the oath is a clerk or the judge, and the judge wasn't available. So, then if you move on to employees, it kind of provides you with, obviously we're police officers, but then there's a list of everything else that we are all doing. I can tell you, being that I'm now the vice president of all the police chiefs in Dane County and will be president of the association next year, we are highly involved in a lot of things. So I'm very proud of this group. They take on responsibilities above and beyond what a normal police officer would do. So you can see the list of things that they do. Next year it'll adjust a little bit as Officer Esser joins the group. So that provides you the employee. Then after that goes the budget. All of this is available to you online if you want to see it as well. I just like to add it to the report so people can see what was projected, what were the changes. Basically to show people we do a lot with a little. Because if you look at the budget, $735,000 is not that much money when it comes to a police department with 8 people, and all the services that it provided. Then we go into the statistics of the report. I just like to usually just highlight things, especially if they're increasing quite a bit or if they're decreasing. Our crime levels are not increasing by much, if any. In some areas they're decreasing, but I do like to point out certain things. So record checks have gone pretty high. If you see 2020, that's the first line item. 2020 we had 10. We're doing 88 now, so we're getting a lot of record requests. From everything from pictures, body cam, to background investigations for other officers, other agencies. There's a lot of work being done in records. Then if you want to move down to 911 disconnects, this is one topic that usually is a lot higher. That has decreased. 911 calls are those type of 911 calls where somebody calls and hangs up and or accidentally dials and those kind of things. It's down significantly from the year before, from 142 to 85. Some of that is part of education, that we're at a lot of events and talk about those things. And others is just, maybe next year it'll go sky high again. It just depends. Assist citizen, that one has all but doubled. We do a lot of assist citizens. That can be from anywhere from, helping them do it, bring in drugs to drop off. We have a med drop box to just assisting them with whatever they need. So those are not crimes. Those are public service assist, a person who wants assist. The other one that's big is in page 2, and that always is high, but even that's increased our property checks. So we do get a lot of people that are snowbirds and they leave and come back, and we check their residences on a daily basis, or we try. There are days that, obviously if we're too busy, we can't get to it, but we have been keeping that a priority, that if somebody leaves their home in our care, that we're checking the doors, windows, making sure there's nothing going on there. And usually that results in about a table full of goodies for Christmas because people come back and then they fill us up with food. You know, in appreciation of doing that, but we don't have any issues doing that. Information calls continue to go up, and again, the more I preach to my staff that it's really important to get out in the community, those numbers will continue to go up because people feel very comfortable with the Cross Plains Police Department to speak to our officers. I'm not getting, if any, complaints of any kind, except for maybe some enforcement when someone gets a ticket or something like that, but that's normal. But I'm not getting any complaints from, hey, the department is not nice. Matter of fact, it's the complete opposite. I pretty much can go anywhere and somebody will thank me for the officers that they did something good. And
Example, information call.
information call, like
This is illegal for me to do X.
right, or if I if this is going on, hypotheticals, if if we have let's say a fraud. So frauds, let's just say a fraud, for instance, somebody comes to us and says, I think I was defrauded. And then we help them through the whole process, but it not being a fraud, we would label that information because it's not a crime. So we will help people even through whatever they're dealing with, even if it doesn't rise to the crime level. And so that's where it's kind of a catch-all for information. But it also is, we've had 3 or 4 calls in the last month where somebody says, hey, I believe somebody's selling drugs out of this place, or I think I just saw, a suspicious situation. And so those are the ones we really want,
Yes.
because that means that our community trusts us with that information. So the other one is open doors. You can see that is sky high, which that just tells me that the officers are out of their squad cars rattling a bunch of doors. And we created sectors. So there's 6 sectors throughout the village. They're required, if they're working certain shifts, they're required to check a couple sectors. So that means checking businesses, checking windows, checking doors, being mobile. And I can tell you the 155 mostly is Taylor. He's highly active in the business community, rattling doors, checking on doors. Nikki maintains our business listing. So that includes up-to-date phone numbers, up-to-date contacts. So if we see something suspicious, we'll call. Nonetheless, even emails, we'll send out an email, say, hey, we were in your business, we checked the store. Depending on the business, we might call them out. Like, let's say we find a bank open. We're probably not just going to lock the door and leave. We're probably going to have them come in and double check, or we find the schools open or anything, something bigger, or if we find something that just seems out of place. So that's a really good impact to the community. I receive a lot of compliments from the business community for us doing that. Then if you want to move down to special events, this is our nuts and bolts. This is why Cross Plains Police Department is well liked and well received. We are at every single event that we could possibly think of. If there's an event, we try to show our faces there. So as you can see, before I took over, we were very limited in the amount of events. 2020 also took on COVID, so there was only 2, but steadily has increased throughout the years. So from last year, we went from 40 to 92. So I mean that everything and anything, programs at the school to, something going on, at Northwest Dane, just we're everywhere. If we can be there, we're everywhere. Then as you go down, I'll wrap up with this. Traffic arrests are way up. We have an issue here with traffic problems. I mean, our complaints are the same. We get plenty of road rage complaints. In the last couple of days, we cited a couple of people who nearly hit our crossing guard there at Glacier. So I mean, we're highly involved in traffic. Matter of fact, right now Taylor's in on a special traffic grant. So that's all he's doing is working on traffic. So we've issued a lot of citations. I can tell you overwhelmingly majority is people not from town. Like it's people just blowing through here. It's not our locals. Now, in the residential area, it does tend to be more our locals, where it's, um, just getting used to those stop signs and then they just roll right through. And then they live right up the street, those kind of things. But when it comes to Main Street, Valley, Church, those are people from out of town we've gotten people going 50 miles an hour in the 25 zone, just not paying attention, headed right to our crossing guard. So, sounds like yesterday he and two children nearly were hit, by a female driver that lost her purse and then she reached down to grab it and just went right through. Good thing our officer was right there to nab her. Then we had a traffic stop. Our traffic stop totals have continued to go up for 758 times somebody's in stop. One of the key pieces of information that I always like to share is our call volume total is 4,247 calls on the year. So if you look at just the trend, it's just constantly been going up. And if you look before my time, we had 1,600 calls for service. So we've gone up calls for service 158%, with increasing no staff. Matter of fact, most of the time being down one because somebody was either retiring or something. So it's a lot of kudos to my staff, for working hard and maintaining these call volumes. And some of it also is our doing. We're much more proactive than years past, than before my time here. I know that for sure. So proactivity, the more you get into the community, the more there is to do. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but it also keeps our crime down, because we're constantly involved. The next two pages or three just provide you a little insight. I did kind of the month call or a call per month. Just kind of the things that we are dealing with. There's a couple more significant issues. They're still going through court, so it's kind of hard to provide you much detail because they're still active cases, but yeah, you can take a look at them. We've had some fentanyl arrests, we've had some sexual crimes and things like that. Projects and programs, just kind of provides you just a little bit of a snapshot of what we're involved in, and what we've been working on. The emergency operation plan, for instance, is a living document, so it's constantly changing, better practices and processes. The field training manual, I'm actually updating it right now. We always try to look at it again every time we're going to bring somebody new, so it has, the best up-to-date processes. Yeah, so those are just some of those things. I also want to draw your attention to, we obviously don't maintain 24/7 coverage, but 75% of the time we are covering 24 hours. So right now, because we've been short, we have to shorten the day, but we are covering as much as we can. At some point, the village, I think statutorily, when they reach a certain population, I think it's just 5,000, they have to cover 24 hours. So the village is going to have to make some tough decisions because we're headed that way, and we're growing. And when we get there, there's going to be an expectation that somebody's on duty 24/7. It's state statute. So those are the tough decisions that the board is going to have to continue to look at and prepare for as we that and other things as we continue to grow. I just want to point out a few things. So staff worked 344 hours of overtime last year. I worked an extra 290 hours to help cover all of these type of calls and just cover people when they were gone. I don't deny a vacation day, and I don't deny a wellness day. If an officer needs time off, they get it off. I don't think I can even think of a day unless there was a conflict between seniority type day off. But if somebody wants a day off, especially a wellness day, they get that day. So even if I have to cover it myself, and that's usually what happens. Future initiatives, I mean, we continue to develop the officer wellness program. We're working on a helping hand program, which is when people get stranded here or involved in a domestic or something where we have to displace them somewhere, where we can help um, put them up somewhere where we can actually fund that. So we're working with the churches. We have started a program with them funding it and kind of keeping it in a donation account. And so we can help people in times of needs, whether gas or a hotel stay. We've used a couple times already, especially hotel stays, you know, a family displaced after a domestic or an incident. So those are just good initiatives. Accomplishments, I know this group wanted to keep kind of an accomplishment list going. That is just some of the big accomplishments we've had in the last 5 years. I really think the department is in a very good spot and um, we're doing well. The rest is just photographs of the different events, different things that we've been involved in. Kind of just give you a little snapshot. Any questions from the group?
I know that there's a part-time one you're offering.
Yep. He works full-time somewhere else.
Okay.
Um, so he averages about, I would say 8 hours a week, maybe.
Oh, okay.
So we do get to use him. His hours are limited, so which is helpful to me, not so helpful to my night staff. But his hours are limited to days, so he's usually here like 8 to 12 or 8 to 2, which is very helpful to me because then I don't have to take calls and I can handle police chief duties and stuff. So paperwork and investigations. Right now I've got 4 active investigations. And when I say investigations, they're not. So I'm working on a human trafficking investigation. I've got the bigger investigation. So those require time, those, commitment and those kind of things. So having him on those days really allows me to then focus on those kind of things. So, we'd like to add another one. We can add as many as we want. We just have a budget, for that. I think the budget's 12,000, just over 12,000. So we pay them $30 an hour, so it's not too shabby for, they don't,
You're not for part-time.
right,
It's a part-
right. No, yeah. And, and so the board has been very good to me because they didn't have a part-time budget before. So we've increased that. We've also increased our overtime budget. The overtime budget, that makes me nervous because I do have officers that work overtime, but if you're trading punches, with them where they're taking a vacation day and then working overtime anyway, they're really not getting that break from law enforcement. That's kind of the same thing with me. Working 290 hours means I don't ever take a vacation, and that's been kind of an average, anyway. It's just after a while you get burnt out. It's not sustainable. And so that's what my concern is for the younger officers. Us that have been doing this for a long time, we're used to working all the overtime and, I've always have, but after a while, that's just not sustainable for the younger generation that's not used to all that
And
extra work.
yeah, some small agencies. I've always been a large part-time budget.
Right.
10 part-time.
Right. And I came
Back
from,
then, people wanted to work part-time.
right. And I came from a department that had 10 part-timers. We had a lot of part-timers. We were required 24-hour coverage. So that's why we really had a robust budget, for that. But you're right. It's not that easy to get part-time officers anymore. It was easy. Right. Now it's just,
As we grow as a community, we have more building construction, and things on.
right.
What, are we gonna be speaking full-time or are we gonna try to?
Yeah, I think for us to go to 24 hours, I would comfortably need 2 officers.
Is there a desire, I mean, do we want to be at 100% for 24 hours? And we're right now at 75%.
It would be nice to, it's not ideal. I mean, I think,
I would be totally.
I think, and we have a great relationship with the sheriff's department, but just like, for example, just the other night, officer comes in on the weekend, came in, we obviously didn't have 24-hour coverage. She comes in and there was a death investigation that the county had come in and started. So then we got to play catch up to try to catch up in that investigation. Mind you, it was natural causes, so we didn't, wasn't us, something worse, which those things do make me nervous, right? But us coming in, we will take it over. I mean, we come in and we pick up where we left off, but it's a disadvantage because we weren't there when the family received the news, when all of those things. So there's always that, that piece that we have to navigate to gain those people again, because again, they've called 911, they want help, and we didn't arrive. And so it's just right. Right. And I can tell you when I go out, as I'm talking to the community, people think we're here 24 hours. I mean, we do a good job making it feel like we're always around, but we're not. And lots of times after midnight, there's no one on until someone comes in at 7. So there's this almost 8-hour gap.
Proactive. Towards it.
Right.
So it doesn't blind us all.
Right.
Right. Some there's some growth.
Exactly. Right.
The way mine.
Right. I mean, it's going to be hard to add 2 at one time, but I do think, they did. There was lots of discussion about it, and it's still back here. And the board did vote at one point that the first position they would add is a police officer position. I mean, we've shown that that's necessary, and I think that would get us a lot closer. 2 would definitely, because if somebody's sick or someone's on vacation, you're going to have backfill. It would also 2 would probably give us a little overlap, because if we get into something like anything big, like a domestic or emergency detention, we're gone from the village now for hours as we deal with that emergency, and no one's here to backfill. So
You have sick call.
short. Well, on vacation and training for sure. So anybody who's ever worked in this field or any field, you got to train your staff in order to be preparing them. So you have two swords, right? You got when we had the longevity employees, those guys had so much sick or so much vacation that they could, take tons of time off. I remember one of our officers had it's like 7 weeks that they could take. So they're gone vacation because they've been here forever and they've accumulated all this time. The younger staff, they might not have the vacation, but I got to send them to training. So again, we got to backfill all that. So either way, you need the coverage. And so,
But I think growth is going to really work. Yeah, direction.
So just curious, this is kind of a little bit of a year review, rear mirror, maybe some, highlights, which is awesome. What's the process then in terms of kind of roadmap for the next year, next 2 years, in terms of laying out what you feel, well, at least a few years in public safety?
right.
Right. How do we look at that, and what does that planning process look like?
I think, there's not much planning. I think it's been discussed over and over at the board level and different committees.
So recommendations get brought
Right.
forward?
Right.
Gotcha.
It was voted on by the village board to add, the first addition will be a police officer. And then there was someone else and then another police officer. So they're
Public works,
police. Yeah, it was, so it would add those spots. It's just funding them. How do we get the funding? I think that's really where we're stuck. We're trying to fund everything we currently have, and we're really close to the tax levy. And so how do you forge that with also trying to be respectful and mindful of taxpayer dollars and all the increases you're seeing in water and sewer, which is the things that I hear about in the community. So, there's only a piece of pie, and it's, how do you divvy that up? So my thoughts are at some point, tough decisions are going to have to be made. Like, okay, where do our priorities stand?
It's kind of getting at
Right.
those trade-off conversations
Right.
that have to happen.
Right.
Where was the village, are we
Right.
comfortable with the trade-off?
Right.
Because in my opinion, and I'm not sure, how it's determined, public safety is not something that's part of a negotiated trade-off.
Right.
it's an imperative that you need, it's an expectation that's there.
It's being reflected.
That's
Yeah. It's like, that has to parallel with the team of providing knowledge.
Right. Right. And you know, it's become common knowledge, but there's talks about adding like 450 homes over behind the Meridian.
That's good.
Okay, that we think of that growth. I mean, yeah, that's, I mean, the good thing is the police department slash village hall is being built to accommodate growth. So it's being built so there could be 12 staff members at the police department. So technically, you know, we could add an additional 4 people to that just based on that growth. So that is probably sufficient for us going forward with even with that new development. But you got to still find the money. You're like, okay, where's it going to come from? An officer, it's not just the wage. Now you got to think of health, benefits, all, you know, and that those are the selling points to my staff when I try to explain to them, like, yeah, you're not taking a lot, maybe as much money as you might take somewhere else, but you also got to count your benefits. You got to count your, you know, the health insurance premiums and stuff. It's a whole package, you know. And so I think that's why we are able to keep people too, is they look at it from a they're being trained to look at it from a big picture perspective. So I mean, I'm glad to have our new officer in place and he'll be done with the academy in May, and then we'll field train him, hopefully get him on the road by June, July. Um, you know, where he's on his own and then we're so far. That will be very helpful.
6-year rotation.
Yeah. So that's the other thing is, you know, I come from a department that had a 12-hour shift, and it was easier to cover 24 hours because you can do that with 4
You have
people.
a lot more time.
Okay. You know, yeah, you're off every other weekend. So what I find though is most departments don't want to go into that if they have older staff that is used to that 6-3.
Right.
Younger staff prefer the every other weekend off thing. So that could change as the department changes. Um, Officer Cyber is looking at retirement, you know, within the next couple of years. So I'm already backfilling his position. So Officer Kimball just went to SRO school. You got to have the national SRO school under your belt in order to be able to be an SRO. So she's already ready in case Roger was to retire sooner. I could move her in tomorrow for that into that position, and she would be great at it. So, and she's very interested in it. So, I mean, we're doing what we can. You know, and this report just kind of gives you a little piece of what we're trying to accomplish. And
Anything that you can achieve in terms of the committee here, in either reviewing, helping to endorse or support.
staffing, that's it. Squads and all of the equipment, we're up to date, we're up to speed. We just both squads are in, and we've had to deal with a couple of squad issues, you know, as we try to manipulate and kind of put us into the all 3 squads working together and the equipment and stuff. But we're close tomorrow. I think after tomorrow we'll be fully, all squads will be in good shape. So equipment wise, we're good. I think the village has done an exceptional job equipping us. You know, 5 years ago, we didn't have tasers, we didn't have less than lethal, we didn't have body cameras, we didn't have any of that. So the village, kudos to them for saying, okay, let's get these guys what they need. So I think in 5 years that has really turned 180. I think for me, it's staffing. I am finding I can only, I speak for myself, but I know I can speak for the entire staff there. You know, it's overwhelming to just come in and be behind and have tons of stuff going on and then expect them to help with programming and community outreach is a responsibility for everybody, and it takes time, you know, and then you've got all these calls. Like for instance, for me, as if like the next 3 days there's nobody on, so I'm on, so I handle calls, and then my police chief duties, I'm doing those from a bedroom, you know, at 10 o'clock at night. I mean, staff's getting emails, you know, of this, we got to do this, we got to do that. So that's not sustainable, and it hasn't been sustainable this whole time. I've just, you know, I just knew we were pretty deficient and we had to take care of it, but it's to a point where it's staffing needs to be a priority for the village. Absolutely. So if you can support in that arena, I think equipment and the move to go to a new police department, and you can't. And that's awesome. It's been really good work and
Yeah.
well overdue. Obviously, we're in the building that's being replaced. So I think the board is doing good work. I think for us, it's just staffing is we need at least a couple more. So
Well, I actually support it. I'm just trying to think of a way that, you know, I think that you've done an incredible job looking back and looking forward at the last year. So I want to thank you for that.
appreciate
You
that.
know, from I know all of us, but
Right.
it also is a little disheartening to know that it's, you know, that inflated was kind of put on, you're doing it well in terms of public, view and with the department. And you're right, it's not sustainable.
Right.
And you also don't want to enable that
Right,
by putting that inside on so well.
right,
Because otherwise, we've got that transparency of where the pain points are. We'll be able to
right.
there's a individual like yourself, someone I know.
And I haven't really not, I've been very vocal about the fact that we need more staff. The reason that I take on a lot of the responsibilities for my own staff and for their own sake, because, you know, they need to feel appreciated, and, you know, you're short staff, everybody kind of, it becomes a problem, as you all know, in your own jobs, right? Someone's got to shoulder it. And so I just feel like, and that's probably is a facade where people are like, oh, it's going good. Well, yeah, but you know, I walk out of here the last 2 days, I've been 12-hour shifts, and then the next 3 days I work my regular eights, but I'm the only one on. So I've got to handle calls and whatever else comes in. It's just not sustain over the course of time, it's not sustaining.
Were there any projections about what the growth is going to be in the next?
Well, I mean, if it's any sign of what's happened just in the last 5 years, I mean, you look at those subdivisions, they didn't have houses, and they're full. So I think,
The timing is always a catch up. It
right,
doesn't feel like it's proactive. And, you know, the obvious trend
Right.
here.
Right.
Always playing catch up and there's that, you know, no different than today. I mean, we're in place, sworn in, but it's several months before you get realized.
Right.
In terms of the
right,
lift, you know.
Right.
It's hard because the growth doesn't come gradually, right? It comes with a development that's less than 500 houses, but, you know, like the one that's been kind of public now, in my house. You know, for many years, you know, people were, you know, the owners of that were gonna go up, sell for now, and so it's like, okay, well, that eliminates the growth, that direction, but it was hard to, you know, part of the plan, we just kind of blatantly, it seemed like this year, all of a sudden, they were ready to do a deal. And, you know, it seemed like there was some
And then who made the decision and stuff, but you know, you can't know when that's gonna happen or what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
The other part is growing north. You go way up the hill, and the problem there is there's a bunch of water infrastructure, millions of dollars of water infrastructure that needs to be put in place to get up there. And right now, there's even a developer who owns a farm who wants to put houses. Their problem is they're like, well, I can't build the water infrastructure for you, and the village can't pay for the water infrastructure either. And so we're kind of at a standstill. But that doesn't mean a different developer doesn't swing in one day and says, oh no, I can cover that and make this profitable. Okay, well now all of a sudden that all gets, but you don't know when that is, right? You just have no idea. It's hard to plan for these kinds of weird things. Otherwise, we're kind of locked everywhere else. It's really growing north and then growing west. West. But you know, again, if they start going on that development over there west, you know, who knows what'll happen after that because there's more farms surrounding that.
Right.
I don't have easy connection to water, so it will be. But again, you know, we had no idea that they were, you know, the private entities that owned it were going to decide to change who made decisions about that land. It's like, how do you plan for that kind of thing? We are doing other things, I guess, just to answer your question from the village perspective, like the sewer plant was 20 years ago. Purposely, it was built for more than capacity, but then like on paper, we said it could only support like 4,500 people. That was a way to limit growth. But then we're doing that expires in after 20 years, that like kind of certification paperwork expires, and so you have to redo it. Now we're doing it right to the actual spec of the building. So we're expecting that to be closer to like 8,000 people is what it, actually supports and stuff. So that'll also unlock, possibly other developers looking at us and stuff now, because they won't be locked out by the DNR not approving them because of the paperwork that was on file. So we do have to get on to getting a police officer. There's a chicken and egg problem with the operating budget.
It's like not anything the village says, it's like state laws and stuff controls like what percentage of money based on your village salary or city salary or whatever that you can.
Shared revenue.
Yeah.
Shared revenue.
Like so. And the problem is state operating budget to increase. Or until operating budget increases, you can't get the police.
And the formulas are a mess, because like for instance, we're always compared to Marshall, we're about the similar size. They actually have 10 officers. So, but their shared revenue is a lot higher, way higher than what we get. And so those formulas are a way of, dealing with those budgets. And the last there was an increase in share revenue. Was it last year?
Last year.
And that pretty much all went to EMS. And so, I mean, the shared revenue goes to the first responder type services, and a lot of times. So, I know the village board is doing a lot of research on EMS and program, that. Right. Yeah, so, right. So, I mean, we're team players, so we're going to keep team playing. What I keep saying to powers that be is I can only buy so many gift cards for my staff before they're like, okay, thanks for the gift cards. But this is not like, thanks for buying me the coffee tonight, tomorrow, or whatever. You can only do that so much before they're like, okay, great. I get it, chief, you're trying to keep us here, but this is getting ridiculous, that kind of thing. And so I've kept their spirits up, but it's just,
Not sustainable, you said.
no, it's not sustainable. And so hopefully something gives. I mean, I really do think there's going to have to be some tough decisions about, through attrition, somebody leaves, retires, moving funding from one source to the other. I mean, there's going to have to be actual decisions made that way. Probably even like looking at where can we save, areas, which I think the finance committee is taking those on. So.
The other thing that can kind of force some move on the operating budget that might happen would be a referendum. So again, if you're in support of, hiring the police and stuff, whenever that comes around, the general public doesn't like that because it does mean an increase to the tax base, but that's the only other means, it's either your village grows, and again, with some really terrible math and equations that the state has put in place for operating budget to go up, or the people will and say, we want this operating budget to go higher than it's supposed to. But then, and that would be the other thing. If we ever did it, it would probably be like a public safety, some kind of event-trick. We wouldn't do it for, wouldn't be like, hey, just give the village more money.
And Middleton's done this a couple times. They've added positions just like that. Fire police.
The only
That have them.
Successful in those communities.
Yeah.
But they've been earmarked and promoted as public safety.
The trick to the promotion is reduce the period of ridiculous. For the average taxpayer, like one out of police officer, what is that impact to your property? It becomes this insanely ridiculous.
Nominal.
$7 a year.
Yeah. Where's it gonna go?
Right.
That's where you have to take that thing. That's where we have to go with. I'll go that direction, but I think we sit down with the people that are drillers, that it's $10. You know.
I talked to the
President, I'm totally in support of a referendum to get the operating, a public safety referendum, for police and possibly EMS. He does not think the community has the support, and it's costly to do it. So you don't want to try and fail, because then you just wasted a ton of money. So, trying to find the right moment.
Yeah, well, and it might be one of those things where, I don't know what the kind of guardrails are around our committee, but if that is something that we need to, I mean, we wrote a letter and looking at your letter of support for the police, municipal building and police station. For us to endorse the research and do like a feasibility type study or pulse of the community, potentially go to referendum with something. That would be something that now that we take a motion forward in our committee to support and or speak to, based on this information. So just thinking about creative ways again.
And it might just be, one of those things to do is maybe, we're taking on a big projects right now, like the police station. So, it's also just, sometimes it's a lot for people to deal with all at once. So maybe once we get settled into the police department, we revisit this strongly. By then we'll know more about this development. Because it looks like that development is like a 15-year project. It's going in different sectors. So, but again, you think of just in the last 3 years, we could drive to each one of those developments. There was tons of lots, and now there's none. Somebody bought every one of them. So it's just, I don't know where it's going to go, but that would be the support area. Start talking to people about, hey, if you ever, what are your thoughts and those kind of things.
Just real last thought on this, and I know we move on is, I think about that is the building and police station, that this is independent of the funding of that. You can understand.
They don't.
What's gonna happen if you wait till afterwards and just think on water? If people think that we're in deficit, that's
Right.
Now we're kind of make
Right.
work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a chicken egg after that.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
it wouldn't be a bad idea in my opinion to put some public information out there before that ground is broken. That these are the facts, this is a separate budget that's funded independent of operating.
And it might be something you could just state, in one of your, in the village board, so makes it into the meeting. So at least it's out there, because I do think people will think one or the other,
Building Taj Mahal.
Now we have to, and
Yeah.
risk.
Right. I'm confident with the category of the village. We could afford to stuff. If we were a bit like a private business, like looking at, the money we're making and what we're obviously not, but, we could put one on the books and I would feel comfortable with that. It's just, we have that state operating budget wall that prevents us from doing it, even though. It was there to be someone. Well, it's something we want to, we can't.
Still legally.
Right. It's still here. So
That's what I try to explain to people, and then people don't. You're also right. The building is not a part of the operating budget. Like that's a operating budget is the ongoing cost. The building is just it's a one-time. Putting a lot of money into there, so it's not the same thing. But even at the bus stop this morning, I had someone ask me about that building and how it impacted hiring and stuff. And I was like, it's not the same.
Mindset early on, but,
Absolutely.
just making people.
We do an audit every year, right? A third party comes in and audits all of our finances. I mean, we are at like 10 or 15% of maybe it's 30% of the debt we could comfortably take on. So, we're taking, the cash flow and the finances of the village are so good. It's just, we're limited by weird state laws. So bizarre. All right.
Yeah, we'll need a motion to recommend that, and I will move it to I usually just present it to the board. They don't take an action on it, but if you guys wanted to take a motion, you can, or just information.
Just approved.
Approve the.
The
I
annual
move
report.
that we accept the. Money for 2023.
I'll second that. Discussion?
Thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was all I was gonna say, was every year, I appreciate that you do this, since
Right.
it's been a whole taker on the board. I think the transparency
Right.
is incredible.
It's important.
So, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the same.
One last thing on that, as we grow, become more transparent, we could, I follow suit with, some type of annual report from the other departments that come through this committee. That would be great. Interesting. Not required.
I mean,
Fire's tricky though, right?
I'm detached from EMS quite a bit, but I don't know fire board.
Chief Radke does do an annual report. It is not nearly as extensive as Chief Tony's, but that is out there and it is public, and I can ask him to present it here. I think that's worth it. But he has a similar kind of call breakdown and kind of.
Yeah, I'm assuming EMS does the same because they probably present to their district board. So, I mean,
I mean, it was just a couple of years ago, you started to invite them, so.
Right. Well, when I started here, I was surprised that they called us the Public Safety Committee, and only I was here. So I did some research on that, and it sounded like they had just never been invited. And so we do a lot of things together, train together, we have meals together. I mean, we're a really good team, first responders. So bringing them in, I think, was just natural, and I think they appreciate it. They would have been here if they didn't have something else come up, and but pretty much any training there, right? So Cameron, if you'd like to ask them,
Yeah, I actually think that's a good. Future items of discussion.
And it's really only for the purpose of sports and we can set up on.
Yeah, I will reach out to the two chiefs.
Okay. See if they can present it next time.
Yep.
So fire, just put down fire EMS reports.
What that would do is obviously it opens the door a little bit for them to be able to look at the public safety committee as that supporter.
Right.
Yeah, potentially endorser or even self-board for some things that they need to.
Yeah,
I know Chief Radke would have no issue with that.
Yeah, I think they probably prepare something anyway, just for their sake.
Schedule next meeting.
Yeah, we got.
It's a little bit awful.
No, it's okay. April.
Do we need a meeting in a month?
Well, I think with these two, we don't want to get them too far ahead if they're willing to do them, because otherwise it'll feel like we're already moving into. So, it's the next meeting is April 15th. That's the third.
Tax day.
Yep, tax day.
Is it? The day was the 15th. Yeah, taxes almost done, so hopefully I'm into it, but. You almost heard it. 15th is a Sunday.
Yeah, 15th.
Oh, 15th. Sorry, okay, that's tax day. That's almost the 13th of the month. Okay.
Should have been in the driveways.
Doesn't sound like fun at all.
That's almost.
I'll put them on the agenda unless I hear back from you.
So. It's the two topics that we do, or do you want to do?
No, I will do it in a memo. It's required to do a memo, so I'll do a memo on the ATV one. The other one, I already talked to Carly to just put it as part of my, you know how they have it on the agenda where department heads can speak, so that's where I'll.
That's all we got for tonight, so. I have a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. We're done.